The U.S. president and his Chinese counterpart are set to meet today. It could turn out to be a tense meeting with both men at odds on several issues, including trade. The protectionist clashing with expansion plans abroad. Our guest, chairman of Starfort Investment Holdings, Ken Courtis. Good to have you with us.
Michael, thank you.
So you're not expecting any big announcement at the end of the handshake?
Michael, this is really serious business. It's the world's two great powers, and how they construct this relationship is going to have an impact on all of us. The stakes are enormous. The Chinese economy will become bigger than the entire economy of the European Union. In a decade, it'll be bigger than the economy of the U.S. We have a lot at stake here. This meeting is the first of two meetings that we'll see this year. The second meeting hasn't been announced yet, but I'm expecting it will come in December. That meeting will be more of a business meeting. This meeting will be more setting the architecture, the framework for the relationship, establishing a dependable channel of communication, which isn't going to be easy given Trump's mercurial personality and his transactional style. Getting a base for a stable chemistry between the two leaders is also important in this first meeting.
You and I have discussed at length, Ken, there is a significant cultural difference at a business meeting level, and that the U.S. need to understand how to speak to the Chinese. Do you have a sense that either the U.S. president, to your point about his mercurial personality, that he understands that, or perhaps more importantly, that Beijing understands that they're not going to be speaking to a president like any president that's come before number 45?
The Chinese were not unhappy that Clinton wasn't elected. I think with Clinton, they knew what the headlines would be for the next 8 years. With Trump, they see someone they can deal with. It's not always going to be easy. The Chinese are pretty good negotiators as well. They know about the art of a deal. This meeting is all about is establishing an understanding that they can work together. This is how it unfolds. Trump will say, here's who I am. This is my biography. Tell me about yours, Mr. C. And then Trump will say, here's what I want to do for my country over the next 4 and hopefully the next 8 years. What do you want to do for your country? For the U.S., he wants to create jobs. He wants to rebuild the infrastructure. He wants higher growth. He wants to pull the U.S. back somewhat from its imperial overreach. He wants America to win again. On the other side, the Chinese, what do they want? They want, over the next 10, 15 years, for their country to be a middle-income country, to have a stable environment in which they can continue reform and growing. And they want a seat at the top table. Not just a seat, but right at the center of the top table. They're expecting us to work to try to accommodate their request to be very much at the center of global decision-making.
When it comes to trade negotiations, who has the upper hand?
The guy with the money always has the upper hand, and the Chinese certainly have the money. Last year, Chinese companies invested abroad a whopping $226 billion. The Chinese are realigning their economy very quickly. In 2006, so a decade ago, the current account surplus was 10.6% of GDP. It'll be around 2.4% this year. They're moving to a consumer society. When we look back in 10 years, we'll say the trade issue peaked right now. From here, the deficit will be getting smaller. The Chinese will tell the Americans, why don't you take the restrictions off the exports of technology? We've got a big market for your technology. Try that. The Trump side, they're going to argue, we want reciprocity. If you can buy our banks, we want to be able to buy your banks. If you can buy our car companies, we'll buy your car companies. If your market's not open for this, we're not going to open our market for that. When we get to the second meeting in December, the two sides will have laid out 5 or 6 key areas where they've got big differences. And in the meantime, they'll prepare the negotiations for those meetings, and that'll be the real business session.
Ken, we appreciate your perspective. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Ken Courtis, chairman at Starfort Investment Holdings.